Careblazer, what if I told you that something as simple as eating one egg a week was linked to a 40% reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease? And no, this is not some sensational headline from a magazine. This comes from a major US aging study, and I will link it below. Now, the details are actually more surprising than that headline. Hi, I'm Dr. Natali Edmonds, a board-certified geropsychologist, and today we are breaking down all the details on a brand new study on eggs and brain health. Specifically, we're looking at two long-term studies and what they discovered about eggs and how it might actually protect our brain as we age. So if you've been avoiding eggs, maybe because of fear for high cholesterol, this video might get you to rethink some things. Now, one thing many of us have been told for decades is eggs are bad. Eggs raise your cholesterol level. And because of that, egg consumption in the United States dropped in half. Many older adults still avoid eggs because of this. But that information was based on older research. More recent research is showing that eggs might actually be healthy for us, especially when it comes to brain health. Here is why eggs matter for the brain. Eggs are more than just protein. They're one of the top food sources of choline, which is needed to make acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter responsible for memory. Lutein and zeaxanthin, which are antioxidants that help protect our brain neurons. Omega-3s, which support brain health and nerve health. And B vitamins are energy for our brain cells. And those nutrients play an important role for inflammation, oxidative stress, and these nutrients play an important role for things like inflammation, oxidative stress, and communication between brain cells, all the things that get disrupted when we're thinking about dementia. So scientifically, eggs kind of make sense as a brain food, but do they actually change dementia risk? Let's dive into the studies. Study 1 is from the Rush Memory and Aging Project. This is a high quality, long-term US study of older adults who agreed to extensive annual testing and even brain autopsies. It's an impressive data set. And here's what they found out. They looked at over 1,000 adults. The average age was 81.4 years old. They were followed for an average of 6.7 years, and 280 of those individuals went on to develop Alzheimer's type dementia. And what those researchers discovered is that the individuals who consumed one egg per week had a 47% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Let me repeat that. One egg per week. And eating 2 or more eggs per week showed the same protective effect. Researchers also examined brain autopsies. And what they found is that higher egg intake was linked to lower Alzheimer's pathology in the brain. And nearly 40% of that protective effect was explained by dietary choline intake. Basically, choline, which eggs are packed with, literally mediates part of the protection. So that's the Rush study. The second study is the Rancho Bernardo study. And this one also is a long-term US-based study looking at 890 older adults, and they were followed for about 4 years. What they found is that in women, higher egg intake was associated with less decline in category fluency. So in psychology, when the person is doing dementia testing, one of the things that we test for is something called semantic fluency. And we basically give them a category and we ask them to come up with as many possible words in that category in a short period of time. And we're basically measuring how their brain does. So they found that women with higher egg intake did better on that kind of testing. And men, there really was not an improvement, but there was no harm either. So the takeaway from this study is that eggs may support cognitive functioning in women, but they don't appear to have any harming cognitive effects in men, but the men didn't have the benefit that the women did. All right, so let's get to what actually might matter for you and your loved one if you're watching this video. These studies are on egg intake and brain health. So here's what both studies agree on. Eggs contain nutrients that the brain needs. Not that eggs are the only way to get those nutrients, but eggs have these nutrients. Moderate egg intake was linked to better brain outcomes. There was no evidence of cognitive harm with the egg intake, and the benefits would be the strongest when the eggs replace less or lower nutrient rich foods, which makes common sense. So this certainly isn't a cure, but it is an incredibly simple, accessible dietary change that we might be able to make for long-term brain health. And for caregivers, small wins like this matter. Now, what are some practical tips here? Number one, if eggs are not part of your diet, you do not need to bring them as part of your diet. Make sure you talk to your healthcare provider, especially if you are someone who has high cholesterol or heart disease. Remember, this study was looking at specifically egg intake and brain health, not a lot of these other health conditions, which could be impacted by egg intake. Diet is just one piece of brain health, but it is an important piece of brain health that we can very much control. I love studies like this because it reminds us that brain health isn't always about some big, life-changing, altering behaviors and decisions. Sometimes it can be as simple as changing something we eat. Now, this is not a typical video that I would do on this channel, especially since I actually don't like eggs, but maybe I will try to eat one every now and then. But are you interested in these kinds of videos? They won't replace the videos I normally do on understanding dementia and how to handle symptoms and difficult challenges. However, I do think it's important to be aware of recent research on dementia. What are people finding? And with the disease that still has no cure, if there's anything we can do right now to help protect our brain health, it might be worth knowing. So if you're interested in diving deeper into the research, let me know by leaving a comment. Also, if you want to dive into the two research studies I mentioned here, I have linked both of them below this video so that you can download them absolutely for free and go through all the analytics yourself. I am sending you so much love. Keep up the great work, and here's for better brain health for all of us.
Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free, and Nico says thank you very much.